This is the story of the worst thing that's ever happened to me in a performance. It was during my time in the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. It was during a concert, so my colleagues were on stage, and it was in front of an audience of more than 1,000 or 1,500 people. And it was so mortifying that I'm never gonna forget this story. But as awful as that experience was, it taught me an important lesson about the need to make sure that you commit yourself to the things that make you successful, no matter how much pressure you're under. I want to give you a little bit of backstory for this story so you can understand how I got into this position. My early education at Oklahoma City University and Northwestern University was really rooted in healthy trumpet playing, making sure you can hear the sound that you want to perform in your head, taking a great breath and playing, and making sure you don't lose connection with that health of playing. So when I got into Indianapolis, I was 25, so I was really young and I was very green. As much as I thought I knew, as good as I thought I was at the trumpet, it just was something that I just didn't know what I didn't know, I guess. So when you get into an orchestra, if you're not aware, you go through a probationary period before you receive tenure. And this probationary period can be very stressful. And when I was in Indianapolis, we had a music director who was incredibly talented. I remember when we were doing, I think it was something like Beethoven 5, I think, he rehearsed without a score. Not only did he conduct a concert without a score, he rehearsed without the score, and he had the whole thing memorized. So when we would stop and look at a passage, he would be like, trumpets at G2, it's this note and this note, and whatever. He would just be able to rattle it off so fast. It was quite impressive, actually, that he was able to do that. So me, as the person getting tenure and the music director, who is the boss, I'm trying to do everything I possibly can do to make him happy. When you're in school, the whole entire thing about school is that you have all these people who are around you trying to help you succeed. They're trying to teach you great lessons. They're trying to help you develop into a great musician. And when you get into a job, like I was in Indianapolis, the point is to actualize that, and you are expected to be that professional, whether you're 25 or now I'm 37 or older. Well, I lived in this creative space that was really cool. When I got coaching from my teachers, it was, oh, this isn't quite angsty enough, or this needs to sound more proud, or you really want to paint a picture that there's sort of some angelic thing happening here in the Pines of Rome offstage solo or something, right? Where we're trying to create pictures. But in my job in Indianapolis, the instruction that I got was slower, faster, louder, softer, shorter, longer, very technical terms. And so in an effort to try to do the very best I could, I just started focusing on those qualities. And I was able to do this. I was able to successfully do what the music director was asking me to do. But a weird thing happened a couple of months after I started where my playing started to feel more difficult. I could do my job and I could sound good, but I felt like I had lost some of the ease I had maybe when I was auditioning for the job or when I was in school, and it was kind of replaced with this low-grade effort that everything took, whether it was in the upper register, I had to play loud or something like that, and I could not figure out what was going on. These struggles followed me throughout my time in Indianapolis, and I'm not gonna blame the next part of the story just on my struggles, but I'm sure they contributed to me finding out in March of 2014, just 7 months after I started the job, I didn't receive tenure. Now, this is crushing. For anybody who's gone through this, you know that it's incredibly crushing because it's not just, oh, you are no longer gonna be in this job. I had spent time envisioning what my life would be like in this place, thinking everything was going pretty well. I'm trying my best to do what I'm being asked to do, and all of a sudden, everything gets turned upside down. And then also, as humans would, I started to experience some self-doubt. Maybe I can't accomplish the things that I want to accomplish in my career. Maybe I'm just not cut out for it. Even though I found out that I did not receive tenure in March, I was allowed, I guess, to finish out the season all the way to July of 2014. And so I had to continue figuring out how to do a job at a high level because I wasn't going to throw a tantrum or something. I was still going to try to be me and do a good job. But these problems were still plaguing me. And this leads us to kind of the picture I'm trying to paint of where I was when the worst performance of my entire career happened. It was in April of 2014, so not long after I found out I didn't get tenure. We were doing Quiet City with the orchestra, and I was excited for this piece. It's a beautiful piece. If you're not aware of it, I would highly recommend you go listen to Phil Smith or Tim Morrison's recording. I'm sure there's other great ones, but those are ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Just beautiful lyricism. There are some really cool pictures that are being painted by Copeland, and I just love this piece. So I was excited to get to play it. The English horn player was Roger Rowe, and he's a phenomenal musician, so it was a real treat for me to be able to do this. Roger and I even planned to do this memorized, so I was that prepared. I knew my way around it. I knew what was going on. And I remember the Thursday morning performance, I was just enjoying the piece. You know, I was just listening. Roger was sounding great. The orchestra was sounding great. And I distinctly remember, this is not the biggest fail of my career, but I just distinctly remember one part. I was listening to the orchestra and all of a sudden I was like, something's missing right now. And then I realized, it dawned on me that I was the thing that was missing. I was just so in outer space, just enjoying everything, that I forgot to come in when it was time for me to play. In this piece, there's a section, maybe 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. It's kind of the climax of the piece. And the trumpet has this repeated figure that goes up to a B flat 3 separate times. Da da dee dee da do dee, da da dee dee da do dee, do da dee dee da do dee. Right? And that third time, everything drops out. And it's just the trumpet singing out. It's an incredible moment. And on the Friday night performance, I felt like I was doing okay throughout most of the piece. But it just, that kind of thing I was telling you about where it was hard for me and my playing was a little bit of a struggle, that started to creep in as the performance went on. And when I got to that part in the concert where I go up to the B flats, I remember the first time I played it, I played the B flat, and I remember thinking, wow, that felt terrible. And then I had to do it again right after that. And the second time I thought, wow, that's even worse. And then I thought, I wonder what's going to happen on the third time. And I'm going to play it for you in just a second, but basically nothing came out of my bell, right? Nothing came out of the instrument except for like some squeaks. I was just trying to get anything to come out of the instrument and I could barely do that. Like I said, everybody else cuts out. So the entire room is just listening to me completely fail on the trumpet. Now, my response to this was interesting. You know, I did my best to finish out the rest of the performance. I think it was fine. It was kind of an isolated event. And when I was walking off stage, I remember thinking to myself, I kind of actually wasn't incredibly upset. Of course, I was embarrassed and it just was like, it was terrible and it sucked. But I remember also being able to think in the same moment, well, I also have played it really well throughout all the rehearsals, and the other concert I did well. So I wasn't necessarily thinking to myself, okay, like my playing is horrible and I've got some sort of thing. I didn't develop the yips, I guess, we'll put it that way. But I was still very confused. I had never had something quite like that happen to me in a performance. Well, I went backstage, that was intermission at that point, and the bass trombone player at that time, his name is Jared Roden. I told Jared about this, what happened, because, you know, it's a strings and trumpet and English horn piece, so he wasn't out there. I told him what happened, and I was just like, I have no idea why this happened. I can't figure it out. And he just told me this anecdote that he had heard from Michael Mulcahy, the second trombone in the Chicago Symphony. I don't remember the exact thing Jared told me or what the quote was, but the gist of it is that Mulcahy would describe himself as having average trombone chops, but world-class air. And he kind of just left it there. And I went home and thought about it, and I was like, yeah, maybe all of this stuff I've been trying to figure out for this music director of how to play shorter and longer or whatever has taken me outside of remembering just to play with health of playing like I was taught. And so I resolved myself, because I had to play it again the next night. I had to come back and face the thing the next night. And so I resolved to only focus on taking a great breath and not trying to push. I didn't want to force anything. I just wanted to sing out with an easy, great sound. And this was the result the next night. You know, it's funny to tell this story. I've told it many times to people over the years, and we always have a good laugh when they hear me, you know, completely fail. But the reason I'm able to do that, the reason I'm able to tell this story and not cringe or not be too embarrassed now is because I recognize that it taught me such an important lesson, which is I need to filter every single thing that comes my way through healthy trumpet playing. I need to figure out, how do I play shorter while playing healthy? How do I play loud while playing healthy? How do I play soft while playing healthy? And this is something I value immensely now, and I can guarantee you that I will never forget that. I will never forget to do this. And so in some weird, twisted way, although it was a very embarrassing experience, there's an element, I'm not necessarily grateful for that exact thing, but I'm grateful for what came after it, the conversations and the thoughts and the growth that came from it. And so, I don't know, I just feel like I enjoy sharing this story because it holds such a special place in my heart, and I think it's hilarious now, obviously. At the time, I wasn't laughing quite as hard. And yeah, I think if there's a easy summation of this story for some sort of takeaway, it's just got to remember the things that make you successful. In my particular instance, winning that job, I played a certain way and I lost sight of how I was playing to be successful. If you're not in a job, maybe you're in school and you had a good lesson one time or a good concert, figuring out, what did I do? What was different? Why did that feel so much better? And then making an effort to say, I'm always gonna try to play the trumpet with that thing that made me sound so good, and always looking at it through that filter. It has led to better outcomes for me throughout my career, and I'm certain that it would lead to better outcomes for you as well. If you've got any stories like mine, where you crashed and burned and maybe learned an important lesson, I'd love to hear them down below. And if you want to keep watching some videos that I've created that might not be about epic fails, but you might still learn something cool, go ahead and click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next video.